Okay, so my name's Breck Turner, library specialist at the Medical Center Library, and welcome back to another session of EndNote Bytes. Today we're going to be going over how to export references from different library databases into your EndNote library. So I'm going to go ahead and start screen sharing. Okay, and I believe you guys should be seeing a blank EndNote library now. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so like I just said, it's blank. You can't really see anything else in it right now because there are no references imported into the EndNote library. So that's what we need to do first. And I'm going to go to my Firefox browser, and Annabelle, you guys can still see this, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm starting on the Medical Center Library webpage, and Annabelle, can you put the link for that in the chat? But I'm going to scroll down and basically make sure this intro tab is opened up. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you can see this list of selected databases here on the left, and then some of our more commonly used library databases here on the bottom right. And so here at the Medical Center Library, the first database that we generally go to do our searches is PubMed. So I'm going to go ahead and click this first icon for PubMed right here. And I opened it up in a new tab. And I'm not really going to do an extensive search today, just going to do like a basic one so you guys can see how it works. So I'm going to do a search for cancer within PubMed. And so now if I wanted to get the citation for this first article into EndNote, what you can do is click the title to go to the article abstract page. And then from here, if you hit the Send To button in that box on the top right, and then select Citation Manager. So now I'm gonna hit the Create File button. And when it's asking about citation managers, that means software like EndNote. And when it opens up this pop-up box, you want to make sure it says open with, and then EndNote. So I have the 20.1 version of EndNote running, so that's what I'm clicking. If you haven't done this on your computer before, especially if you're using a UK computer, it'll probably default you to this research software. But you don't want to use that. You want to make sure you have EndNote selected. And then hit OK. Okay, so from here, it opened back my EndNote library. And what it has opened right now, you can see on the left, because it's highlighted, is this Imported References button. And so imported references are the last thing that you imported. So since I just imported one reference, that shows up here. And it also shows up in recently added and in unfiled. So recently added is where everything that I'm going to import today will go. And unfiled basically means that it's not in a group yet. And speaking of groups, those are right below all this. So there's the My Groups section here. If I want to create a group, there's a couple of ways to do it, but the first way is I right-clicked and then hit Create Group. So now I can name that group PubMed. And one way to add that reference to the group is if I left-click on it so it highlights, and then drag it to the PubMed group. So that's how you would do that for one individual reference. I'm going to go back to the search results within PubMed. And a lot of time, what people like to do is pick and choose what citations they want to export to their library from their search results. So what I'm going to do is check mark these two boxes here. If I want to send these to the clipboard in PubMed, I can do that. Or I can just send them straight to the Citation Manager. So I'm going to hit Send to Citation Manager. And if I want to do just those two, I would make sure that it's says selection 2 highlighted. Otherwise, I could send like all the results on the page, or it actually won't send all the results. I think it's limited to like 1,000. But I'm going to hit selection 2 and hit create file. And again, make sure it opens up with EndNote and hit OK. All right, so now that we're back in EndNote, you can see the imported references. It says 2 because those are the last 2 that I did. And then recently added has all the ones that I've done just now. And unfiled, those are the 2 that are not in a group yet. So another way to add these to a group is I just highlighted both of them. If I want to right click and then where it says add references to, and I can add it to the PubMed group. So now all 3 of those are in the PubMed group within my EndNote library. So now I'm going to go back to my web browser and close the PubMed tab. So another database platform that we use a lot across UK libraries is the EBSCOhost databases. Some of ours are CINAHL, PsycInfo, DOS. All those run on the EBSCO platform, so it'll be the same process for any of these databases if we want to export references from them. So I'm going to go ahead and open up CINAHL. And then again, I'm just going to do a really basic search here. So I'm going to do like heart attack. And just do a search within CINAHL. So I'm going to show you again how to get an individual citation from CINAHL. So I'm going to click on this first title. And then over here on the right under tools, what you'll do is hit this export button here. And then make sure you have that first option selected, direct export in RAS format. And you can see EndNote is one of the options, so you know you're clicking the right thing. And then go down here to the save button. And again, make sure it's opening up with EndNote and hit OK. So now if I want to create another group, I'm going to click on one of my groups down here and then right click it and create a group. And I can do that. I'm going to show you guys how to create groups a different way. So if I right click on a group and then hit delete group, you can delete a group. And like it does say, references will not be deleted from your EndNote library. If you delete a group, just the group will be deleted. So I'm going to hit yes. So another way you can create groups is go up here to where it says groups and hit create group. So I'm going to call this one CINAHL since that's the database I chose. And then I just imported this reference from CINAHL. So I'm going to drag that over to the CINAHL group. All right, so now I'm going back to the search results list. And like with PubMed, there is a way to do more than one at a time. So next to the title for this second result, if I hit this little blue folder with the white plus icon, I can add that to the CINAHL folder. So I'm going to scroll down and click that folder also for the third result. And I'm going to scroll back up. So now this folder icon is turned yellow with like a document sticking out of it at the very top, the blue toolbar. So I'm going to click on that. And then from here, if I want to export these to EndNote, again, go over to the right and hit the export button. And then if you want to remove those items from the folder after saving, you can check that box. And again, make sure the direct export in RIS format is selected. So go back to the left and hit save. And you'll be able to open those in EndNote now. Okay, so again, I'm going to unfiled and I'm going to add those references to the CINAHL group. Okay, so the last major database I'm going to show is Web of Science. So I'm going to close my CINAHL tab. And then under selected databases, the last option is Web of Science Core Collection. So I'm going to open that one up. Okay, so this is what the new Web of Science looks like. And here I'm just going to do another really basic search for diabetes. Okay, so again, I'm going to show you how to do an individual one and then multiples. So I'm going to click on this first title. And then this darker toolbar up here, you can see the export button. And for our purposes today, let's select EndNote Desktop. That's the EndNote program on your computer. And then you'll want to select full record so you get more of the bibliographic info in your EndNote library. So I'm going to hit export now. And then make sure that you do select to open it with EndNote. Okay, so that one imported. So I'm going to create another group, call it Web of Science, and drag this one over to that group. Back in Web of Science, I'm going to go back to my search results and do the same thing for the next two. So I'm check marking the boxes next to the titles for the next two references, similar to how we did it in the past couple databases. And then if you do want to make a list of those, you can add that to the marked list. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the marked list will have just the ones that you selected. And now if I want to export these, again, I have the option to export to EndNote Desktop. And then I only have two, so I can either do all the records on the page or records from 1 to 2. And again, select the full record to get all the content you need. And then hit export. Open it with EndNote again. Okay, so those two went to unfiled. And again, I'm going to drag them to the Web of Science group. Last thing I'm going to cover real quick is Google Scholar, because people do tend to ask about that. So I'm going to go to scholar.google.com and just do a search for like coronavirus. Okay, so what you're seeing on my screen looks a little bit different than how it probably looks on yours. So by default, what you'll see is you'll have some of these buttons. You'll see this quotation button, that's the cite button. And if you click into that, you'll get this screen and you'll see EndNote down here at the bottom. So if I click on that, it'll prompt you, make sure you're opening it in EndNote. And so we can import it that way. So I'm going to move it from unfiled to the Google Scholar group. Something else you can do if you want to save some clicks is get this import into EndNote button there at the end. So what I did to make that happen is if you go up to this little 3 lines next to Google Scholar, and then go down to the settings options. So in your search results section, one of the options is your bibliography manager. And then if you hit this button here and set it to show links to import citations into EndNote, and then save that, it'll give you this import into EndNote button there. So if I click on this next one, import into EndNote, it'll prompt me to do it. And again, I can add it to a group. Okay, so another thing, just to show you that it does work, if you delete a reference from a group, it doesn't necessarily delete it from EndNote entirely. So what you can do is right-click on a reference, and then you have 2 different options. You can either move the reference to trash, or you could remove the reference from the group. So if I just remove the reference from the group, right, it's saying it won't be deleted from your library, and I can hit yes to do that. And one last thing, you can actually make groups of groups, and those are called group sets. And EndNote, so if I want to create a group set for what we've done today, I'm going to call that export from databases. And so that's what the group set looks like, where it has a little down arrow. And now I can actually move these groups by dragging them under a group set. So just if you have multiple projects that you're working on and you want to keep track of your groups that you're using for that project, you can use group sets to better manage that. And that is the end of the EndNote Bytes session for today. If you want more information about any of this, or if you want to see it written out, you can go to our EndNote guide on the Medical Center Library webpage. So if you hit the Guides tab and go to EndNote, there is a document for exporting and importing references under our help and resources.